Okay, and the last area of these broad skill sets that we're talking about is develop the ability to recognize if you've crossed the threshold from normal self-confidence into a state of euphoria. You guys are laughing. I finally got some giggles out of you guys here. What's so funny about this? Anybody want to share? What? What's that?
You don't want to be in a state of euphoria.
No, you're right. I mean, being in a state of euphoria, let's put it this way. The primary, let's say, the primary characteristic of the state of euphoria is that it's a state of mind of complete and absolute risklessness. Did everybody get what I just said? You are in a state of risklessness. In other words, you have no ability whatsoever to perceive risk. So if, for an example, if this line right here, if below this line represents normal self-confidence, and above this line is euphoria, and this threshold's different for everybody, by the way. I mean, there are certain chemicals that scientists have found that, you know, that flood our mind and our body when we've crossed this threshold. I've worked with traders who will flip into a state of euphoria with one winning trade. Okay, usually for most people it takes more than one winning trade. But I have worked with people that they'll flip into a state of euphoria with one winning trade. Now the problem with this, and it's a great state of mind to be in. I mean, to be in in virtually a riskless state of mind. I mean, it's like, hey, you know, it's really a cool place to be. But the problem is that when we're in a state of euphoria as a trader, we are, I mean, it's virtually guaranteed that we're going to make a trading error. And the kind of trading error that we'll make in a state of euphoria usually has to do with position size. So for an example, if you normally only trade 1,000 shares, in a state of euphoria, it's like, okay, let's mortgage the house. Okay? It's like, you know, let's go to 10,000, 20, 30, whatever. 1,000 shares. Because, you see, you absolutely know for a fact you wouldn't be putting this trade on if it wasn't going to work. See, you know for a fact. See, because you don't have any ability to perceive risk at all. Now the problem, even though it could even end up being a winning trade, it's not that the trade might not end up being a winner, but here's typically what's going to happen. If you're a normal 1,000 share trader and you go up to 10,000 shares, if when you put 1,000 shares on and the market went against you 5 cents a share, wouldn't be any big deal. You got 10,000 shares on when you absolutely knew for a fact that the trade was a winner, and it goes 5 or 10 cents against you. It has the potential to flip you into a state of pure, unadulterated terror. Instantaneously, you'll go from euphoria to a state of terror in one instant, because your expectations about what was going to happen were so resolute, it creates a psychological shock that puts you in a state of mind freeze. Mind freeze. Mind freeze is when you are conscious of what is happening, but find yourself totally immobilized to do anything about it. And so if the market happens to go 10 cents against you but keeps on going, okay, you just sit there and watch, completely immobilized, while the market takes your money away, until finally something flips you out of that, and you say, hey, you know, you just come back to your senses and you had enough and you get out of the trade. I know that's probably never happened to anybody in this group, but I've worked with many people who it has happened with. So this is not something unfamiliar to anybody here?
The terror part,
It's like going literally from a state of mind, it's like literally going from heaven to hell instantaneously. And keep in mind the dynamics here. It was all based on your expectation. It's all based on your expectation. So you guys have got this? Okay, so when we're talking about consistency, see, goes back to when I was doing the contrast, okay, is that to experience a winning trade, you need nothing. I'm not saying that you don't put something into it, but the fact is you need nothing. There's no skills that are required to experience a winning trade. But to experience consistent results as a trader, the kind of results that you can rely on as an income, there's some pretty kind of profound skills that we're talking about, are we not? You got to have an edge. You got to have a plan on how to execute the edge. You got to be able to execute the plan flawlessly, or at least without a minimum number of errors, or otherwise they're going to detract from your results. You got to be able to recognize when you might have some self-sabotaging beliefs that are rising to the surface to say, hey, this is too much money. Why do you think it is that you have probably read in some of the trading books, I'm sure you have read at some point, that someone gives you the advice that when you have windfall profits to stop trading and take a vacation? Why do you think that advice exists? Why do you think people have written that down? I just gave you the underlying dynamics for why that's true. It's not just the euphoria. No, it's not the terror afterward. It's the possibility for self-sabotaging beliefs coming in and saying, I am not worth this much money. Even though it's what I want. It's what I desire. It's what I've been working for. It doesn't mean that you believe you really deserve it. You have to believe you really deserve it to keep it. Or at least recognize that you don't necessarily believe it and don't do anything to give it away. In other words, take a vacation, put it in the bank, let yourself get used to having it, and at which point you'll say, you know what, yeah, I do deserve this money. And then you'll be less likely to give it away.